The 3-minute thesis or 3MT competition model was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. By 2011, the 3MT competition phenomena had spread around the globe, and now more than 900 universities from more than 85 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this year is our 12th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are and what they study to an audience of folks who are mostly outside of their field. It is an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus from a wide range of disciplines. This week, we have over 100 UNLV graduate and professional students assigned to compete in the preliminary rounds. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less using one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition. Now let's turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. The judges will be assessing the competitors based on metrics, which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas: comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor. Judges will not penalize competitors for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentations, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live. The top 3 in this session will advance to the semifinals. So without further ado, let me introduce the judges, and then we'll get into our 3MT Research Rumble. We have a set of very distinguished judges in today's session. Judges, feel free to turn on your camera briefly to wave hello as I introduce you. The judges for today's competition are Dr. April Contreras, an alum of the Graduate College, Dr. Jennifer Farr, School of Public Health, Dr. Bertil Mavegma, School of Medicine, Dr. Emma Bloomfield, Greenspun College of Urban Affairs, Dr. Anthony Feldman, College of Sciences, Dr. Juliana R.V. Track, College of Hospitality. Welcome, and thank you for serving on our panel of judges today. So we are ready to begin our competition. Our first presenter today is going to be Joseph Bingham, Director of Philosophy, Geoscience.
Imagine yourself in Cairo, Egypt. You feel the warm sun on your skin and the sand beneath your sandals. You admire the beauty of a pyramid before you. When a construction company starts demolishing blocks of the pyramid, how many blocks do you think it would take before the entire pyramid collapsed? My research examines one type of pyramid, trophic pyramids. Trophic pyramids show how energy moves throughout an ecological community when things eat other things, aka a food web. But when that energy flow gets disrupted, food webs collapse. 201 million years ago, at the end of the Triassic, Pangaea began ripping apart, wiping out 80% of all life at the time. Erupting volcanoes spewed out carbon dioxide emissions that choked the planet, called anoxia, and poisoned the oceans, called acidification, akin to the modern day. While a great deal of research has focused on how these factors caused the end Triassic extinction, none have investigated how the interplay between biodiversity loss and food web collapse, again, what eats what, likely contributed as well. To address this gap, my research seeks to find how marine food webs change across the end Triassic extinction because of species loss. The end Triassic is an ideal time to analyze how biodiversity ruination contributed to food web dismantling compared to the modern because of its organismal composition, oceanic processes, and respective causes. Using fossils collected from northwestern Nevada, I will determine how marine trophic pyramids shifted from before to after the mass extinction by identifying key ecological tipping points when food webs imploded. In doing so, I will decipher which ecological groups promote food web stability and thus ascertain which groups are most important to protect today. In summary, because of the current biotic crisis, it is more important than ever to find connection between biodiversity and food web health. If we do not stop the ongoing mass extinction, pollination, food availability, water quality, and human health will all decrease. Additionally, according to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, over 48,600 species are currently at risk of extinction. Thus, ultimately, my research seeks to protect the entire pyramid of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our next presenter is Albert Loeda, Doctor of Philosophy, Higher Education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Albert Loera, and I'm going to be showing you some of the research I do in sports economics and using statistical methods to understand financial policy impacts. We are going to be going over the NCAA's name, image, and likeness policy, which was enacted in 2021 and allows student athletes to profit off of their name and image, and the comparison between the Power 4 universities and mid-major schools. The Power 4 universities are considered the larger athletic departments around the country. So the first part of our study is our data. Where does it come from? Is it valid? Is it reliable? And it's going to be coming from the Department of Education's large-scale data set of the Equity and Athletics Disclosure Act. This is an annually required survey that all athletic departments around the country must administer around October, and it gives us over 100 variables that range from coaches' salaries to operational expenses like recruiting and financial aid. And the next part is our methods. What are we going to do with our data? So we're going to be running an interrupted time series method, and this is a common method to understand the pre and post impact of financial policies. The next part is our framework, what's going to drive a lot of our research questions, and we're going to be using prestige maximization. And prestige maximization tells us that financial behaviors change when essentially decision makers are trying to be better than the next person and try to be more prestigious. In college athletics, sometimes it's considered the arms race. Who can build a better building, who can build a better facility, and whatnot. So, and the next part is our preliminary results. So the two graphs here on the right are showing the top one is our men's recruiting expenses. The blue line is showing the slope change after the policy was enacted in 2021, and the orange line is our mid-major schools. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the slope after the policy was enacted and our counterfactual slope as if the policy never occurred, and understand if there is any statistical difference there. The second graph is also showing that this isn't just impacting men's sports, it's also in women's sports. That for women's athletic student aid, we are also seeing that slight uptick in Power 4 schools. So again, we would run our ITS model and show if there's any statistical evidence there. So we show very positive results initially. And the last part here is our impact. Why does it matter? Why are we going to do this study? And the two pie charts here are showing the shift in mid-major funding that within 2017 and 2024, there's already a 6% increase in total institutional support and student fees. But if our data and our research is being shown that the model is unsustainable financially, university presidents and athletic directors must understand that this might not be sustainable, and we cannot just be asking the students for more money. So we hope to show this with our research that the impacts of the name, image, and likeness policy using an interrupted time series method. Thank you.
We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our next slammer is Kevin Dangler, Doctor of Philosophy, Nursing.
Great, thank you, Alyssa and judges. I appreciate that. So my research is all about how our bodies respond to shift work. So I was a shift worker for many, many years throughout my life. I'm sure a lot of you out there as well. We're shift workers, and you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to our sleep, aka the non-existence of our sleep here. So for us here, my research is all about what can we do to identify different patterns of sleep by looking at brain waves. So we actually have different devices that we can use to detect night shifters that are sleeping really well versus night shifters that are not adapting well. And you can actually see that scientifically through what we call hypnograms. So those are the things right here, as you can see on my slide on the far right side here. I actually have 3 hypnograms. These are actual patients that we've seen. And from here, you'll be able to see the very top one. I know they're difficult to read. They're basically just showing maps of how we're sleeping at night, and we can see everything there. This top night shifter has adapted very well to night shift life. He went to sleep right away. Lots of good, deep N3 restorative sleep, which is what we love to see, and nice, clean cycles. But this is very far from reality, as you know. So the very bottom 2 hypnograms that you can see here, these are pretty much what most of us night shifters are going to be looking like. We're playing on our phone for 2 hours. We're very slow to fall asleep. We're constantly being awoken, kids, the temperature's not right, cars beeping, and we lose that very deep sleep, which is very important. So my research is looking at why it is causing this huge variation in people's sleep. And more importantly, what kind of strategies can we equip our night shift force with so that we can better address this element? Because as you can see, if someone doesn't have good sleep quality, they're going to be looking like those bottom 2 hypnograms for years and years and years. And people that have poor adaptation to night shift, these are the people that have 30% higher risk of having an accident on the job. And night shift is tied to a lot of dangerous things in healthcare. We see it with cancer, depression, anxiety, heart attacks, stroke, and the worst one, the one that we're currently studying a lot, dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So these are things that we're always very concerned about. So with my research here, I really want to try to focus on what we can do with these different sleep hypnograms and just sleep patterns in general, and see if we can provide a personalized, tailored approach, because we know a one-size-all Band-Aid isn't going to do much when your body feels like every single week you're getting hit with a 12-hour jet lag. So with that, I feel if we can address the sleep patterns here in Nevada, especially Las Vegas, we're known for being a 24-hour city. So with that, we really need to do our best work to take care of our night shifters. because as you can tell, if we take good care of our night shift force, that improves everyone's safety for all of us in our community, and it leads to better job performance and reduced healthcare expenditures at the end of the day. Thank you.
We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our next slammer is Isaac Burke, Doctor of Philosophy, Mechanical Engineering.
Hi, I'm Isaac Burke. I'm part of Dakine Lab, and I reconstruct droplets in 3D space. The main reason I do this, among other reasons, is power generation. So right now, about 70% of the world's power generation comes from a steam cycle, where you boil water into steam, run it through a turbine for electricity, and then condense it back down into a liquid. This process usually uses fossil or nuclear fuel, so naturally there's a lot of research going into it, trying to increase efficiency and reduce the amount of fuel burned. Now, my work focuses on the condenser portion, where the typical method for studying this is droplet goniometry. You take a single droplet on a condenser surface, take a side view image of it, and study the droplet shape to learn the condenser properties. It's straightforward, but it's kind of a limited method. For one, you have to use a single droplet, so you can't see all the interactions happening between multiple droplets on a real system, and it assumes that the whole thing is symmetric, which is typically not the case, and you actually learn a lot from asymmetrical droplets. There are alternatives, but they usually involve exhaustive scanning or additional equipment, things that are costly and generally impractical to use for real systems. So we wanted a method where we could reconstruct a whole system in 3D just from a single image. The inspiration we got was from photography, where photographers will use the reflections in a model's eye, often called catchlights, trace it back to some unknown lighting, and reconstruct the whole scene. All we do for our method is reverse this, where we have known lighting, trace it back to some unknown reflecting surface or droplets, and reconstruct that. Hence, we call this the reverse catchlight method. So what we do is we take an overhead shot of real droplets with reflections on them. We then generate some physically possible droplet, candidate, and we calculate what its unique reflections would be. We then compare these two sets of reflections and adjust the pressure of our candidate, almost like inflating or deflating a balloon, and we get them to line up. Once that's the case, we know we have accurately reconstructed our droplet. So we've tested this against goniometry. We found that not only does it work just as well, but it actually allows us to reconstruct these irregular or even exotically shaped droplets, like our own university letters shaped into real droplets. Also, lets us reconstruct whole systems of multiple droplets just from that single image. And even more than that, we can do this over time, like video capture from a single camera. And this lets us get unique statistical data of the whole system, see the dynamic interactions, and lets us see these systems in ways we haven't been able to do before. So with this, we are able to study the systems much differently and much better than we've been able to, and accelerate research, improve efficiency of these power cycles faster, and thus let us burn less fuel to get the same power that we need each day. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our next slammer is Meghna Gogoi, Doctor of Philosophy, Sociology.
What would you do if the person you love challenged the faith you were raised to believe? Imagine this, a couple deeply in love standing before their families to share their commitment to a lifelong partnership. But instead of cheers and blessings, they hear questions like, how will they make it work? What about their kids? Whose traditions will they follow? How will the society react? These are not just questions, they are potential barriers faced by many interfaith couples as they navigate love, tradition, and societal expectations. In my research, I define interfaith marriage as a union between two individuals who were born and raised in different religious backgrounds. My study explores how upbringing and lived experiences shape the ways interfaith couples make decisions to intermarry before the couple is committed and successful accommodations of differences once married. In this study, accommodation means the adjustments made by couples regarding everyday life choices based on shared goals and values. While much of the existing research focuses on broader societal attitudes toward interfaith marriages, often highlighting the experiences of women, I focus on the married couple as the unit of analysis, giving voice to their challenges, choice, and resilience. This research is relevant because interfaith marriages are becoming more common in today's multicultural society. But the journey of an interfaith couple isn't easy. People usually grew up grounded in their cultural and religious traditions, and these roots often shape who they become. But when two people from different faiths fall in love, these traditions collide, raising questions and tensions. Therefore, my research investigates how couples negotiate these tensions, not by erasing their differences, but by creating a partnership that respects each other's faith while ideally building a shared identity. For this research, I conducted in-depth interviews with 5 interfaith heterosexual couples from Hindu, Muslim, and Christian backgrounds in the United States. By interviewing each spouse separately, I explored how they reconcile religious differences, manage family expectations, and sustain their relationships. My findings reveal 3 major themes: evolving religious identity, everyday negotiations, and managing conflict. Most participants described being raised in deeply religious households but currently do not identify themselves as religious. This evolving sense of faith made them more open to interfaith unions. However, entering an interfaith marriage is only the beginning, as sustaining it involves constant negotiation. Couples actively balance 2 traditions, 2 families, and 2 sets of expectations, creatively blending holidays, rituals, and parenting practices. Despite these conflicts arise not just between partners, but also with their families. To manage these tensions, interfaith couples use different strategies like quiet compromises, selective disclosure, and open communication. Lastly, my findings are useful for clinical and counseling professionals who must deal with the area of issues surrounding the couple which shape the quality and longevity of such marriages. Thank you.
We will now give the judges a minute to score. Our next slammer is Kendrick Hope, Doctor of Philosophy, Special Education.
Thank you for having me. So I just want you to imagine getting ready for a job interview, but the world around you seems and feels unpredictable. That's the reality for many young adults on the autism spectrum. They want to work, but they can't because of their soft skills that they need. They need help with communication, time management, and handling change. All that can make or break success on the job. Employment can be more than a paycheck. It's confidence, independence, and a sense of belonging. Yet only about 14% of young adults on the autism spectrum find paid work after leaving high school. Many transition programs focus on job tasks that involve like cleaning or stocking shelves, but rarely teach those soft skills employers actually want. And that gap inspired my study. I wanted to know, how can virtual reality help students with autism build these critical job skills? Virtual reality, or VR, allows students to practice real-life scenarios, like interviews or workplace scenarios, in a safe and controlled environment. I worked with 3 high school students with autism using a program called Floreo VR to teach these 3 skills: workplace communication, time management, and handling interruptions. Each session included clear instruction, modeling, practice, and feedback, all delivered through immersive virtual sessions. As a current autism special education teacher, I've seen firsthand how much these skills matter, not just for employment, but for confidence and independence. The results were exciting. All 3 students improved in every skill after the VR training. While within the program, students started greeting coworkers, staying on schedule, and responding calmly when interrupted. Even better, those skills were maintained over time. When asked how he felt, one student smiled and said, "I finally feel like I can work somewhere." Parents noticed the same thing: less stress, more confidence, and greater independence at home. This study shows that virtual reality can bridge that gap between school and the workplace. It gives students hands-on experience in a realistic setting without that anxiety that often comes with in-person practice. And it doesn't replace the teachers, it empowers them with new tools to prepare students for real jobs and real futures. Imagine if every high school had access to this kind of technology. We could redefine what transition support looks like for our students with autism, turning possibility into a reality. My goal is simple: to make employment possible for every student, and not just some. Because with the right support and a little virtual practice, these young adults can go beyond barriers and into meaningful work. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our next slammer is Chris Miguel, Doctor of Philosophy, Teacher Education.
Thank you. So to preface this presentation, I must identify myself as a gay male. This provides the rationale for my research and also grants me the authority to speak about it. In my school experiences, I never had an LGBTQ role model. I never saw myself positively portrayed in the curriculum, if I was portrayed at all. Because of this, my LGBTQ identity was marginalized and I was made invisible. Due to these deficits, my research focuses specifically on pre-service teachers and how pre-service teachers develop the tools, skills, and language to engage in meaningful and long-lasting relationships and conversations with LGBTQ students. Pre-service teaching is defined as students enrolled in teacher preparation programs that have required K-12 teaching time. My research focuses specifically on this population because pre-service teachers are just beginning to develop their teaching beliefs and philosophies. They're in a very unique position to lead education into the future and create more inclusive and equitable spaces for LGBTQ students. The ability to do this could be referred to as self-efficacy. LGBTQ specific self-efficacy, research shows, is lower than any other demographic. Because of this, LGBTQ students historically have the highest rates of bullying, harassment, chronic absenteeism, and even suicide. My research essentially has four major outcomes that are underpinned by queer theory. Queer theory is the belief that LGBTQ students are disadvantaged by institutional and social structures. My first intended outcome is that school bullying and harassment policies must be rewritten to use more LGBTQ inclusive language. Secondly, more emphasis must be placed on LGBTQ youth activism through gender and sexuality alliances, such as GSAs, civic engagement, and community partnerships. Third, more diversity-focused professional development programs must also be made available to school staff and administration. Finally, existing school curriculum must be deconstructed and reconstructed to be more LGBTQ inclusive. Currently, LGBTQ students and diversity, equity, and inclusion are under tremendous fire because of current social and political upheaval. However, it's extremely important that LGBTQ voices and experiences are not marginalized or made invisible. Through this research and research like it, LGBTQ students will be more accepted, recognized, embraced, and celebrated in schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will go ahead and give our judges a minute to score. Our next slammer is Gazelle Darfarian, Doctor of Philosophy, Interdisciplinary Health Sciences.
Hello, everyone. Radiation is the most effective tool in cancer therapy. However, this power can also damage surrounding healthy tissue and increase the long-term risk of secondary cancer. My research is focused on understanding how ATF2 activation transcription factor 2 protein affect the cellular response following X-ray radiation. So ATF2 protein is like a multitasking driver who manage several parts of cell's journey after radiation. When radiation hits, the cell face all kind of trouble. ATF2 steps in the stress controller that helps the cells steer through these challenges. It halts the cell cycle at checkpoints, or it activates DNA damage response gene, like turning on the car's hazard lights to signal, hey, there is an issue. Right now, my research is to understand how ATF2 loss can affect mitochondria after radiation. So you can think of cells like a hybrid car. It has two engines. One runs on gasoline that's mitochondrial respiration, and the other runs on electricity, that's glycolysis. The gasoline engine, like mitochondrial respiration, is powerful, efficient, but it creates exhaust, which in our cells means reactive oxygen species, or ROS. So too much of that can harmful. So, and on the other hand, the electric engine glycolysis is cleaner, safer, but produce less power, meaning less energy for the cell. Normally, when the cells are stressed, for example, after radiation, they switch to their electric engine to avoid making too much ROS. But what we found in our ATF2 knockout cells is really interesting. Even under radiation stress, they keep using their gasoline engine. So they're running more powerful, but also making more exhaust. That might sound good for energy, but it could lead to oxidative stress or change how these cells decide to live or die. So our next steps are measuring ROS, exhausted, and apoptosis, cell death, to see if ATF2 can enhance these after radiation. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our next slammer, Susan Gleed, Doctor of Philosophy, Neuroscience.
Have you ever heard someone say, aren't we all a little autistic? Or isn't everyone a little ADHD nowadays? These questions may sound dismissive, but scientifically they point to an important truth. Autism and ADHD aren't black and white, yes or no diagnoses, but they're defined by traits, things like distractibility, social difficulty, or exceptional focus. And these traits exist along a spectrum that extends into the general population. So all of us express these traits to varying degrees, a mixture of them. And it's something that extends into the entire population. Now, researchers have identified hundreds of genes associated with autism and ADHD, and adults with these conditions often express and report symptoms relating to coordination and balance issues such as dizziness or trouble adjusting to motion. But here's the problem. Most research focuses only on those who have a diagnosis. So they're missing the dimensional or the spectrum aspect of these conditions. And genetic research alone can take years to translate into meaningful help and support for those who need it now. And what about those who are undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or don't quite meet the diagnostic threshold? When these people are overlooked, we're missing the full picture. My project zooms out to study these traits dimensionally across a general population. I will link self-report autistic and ADHD traits with measures of balance and coordination. And I will use a device I trained on while interning at NASA called the GVS. It's a device that disrupts your balance system, makes you feel off balance. NASA uses it with astronauts, to mimic what it feels like when returning to Earth and Earth's gravity. But I will use it to be able to capture even subtle differences in a person's movements and balance and coordination. Then I will relate those differences back to trait expression. But why does this matter? Because understanding how our trait profiles relate to movement and balance can help us identify who's most vulnerable for balance challenging situations, from virtual reality use to alcohol consumption to all forms of travel. We may not all be a little autistic or ADHD, but we are all human, sharing more traits in common than we may think.
Thank you. We will now give our judges a minute to score. Our final slammer today is Belle Gerber, Doctor of Philosophy, Biological Sciences.
In 2006, a deadly fungus made its way to a cave in New York on the backs of unsuspecting cavers. Since then, this fungus has infected 12 species of North American bat with white nose syndrome. White nose syndrome is a deadly fungal disease that is hitting bat populations hard. One of these hard-hit species is the little brown bat, and they have seen over 90% population loss in infected colonies and are now endangered in multiple states and in Canada. Little brown bats are small insectivorous bats that live in colonies and hibernate in caves in the winter. These bats can be found across most of North America and play important roles in their ecosystems as pollinators and pest controllers. Colonies of little brown bats in the northeastern United States have been facing this disease for almost 20 years now and have been infected and reinfected over that time. As you can see on the map here, there are occurrences of white nose syndrome in the western US and western Canada. However, this disease is still actively spreading, and there are many colonies of little brown bats that have not been hit yet. My research focuses on colonies in New England that have experienced white nose syndrome for almost 20 years, and in that time have experienced devastating population loss and begun to recover. Taking notes from these recovering colonies can help better inform us on how newly exposed colonies will respond to the disease and which colonies might need a little extra help getting there. I use little brown bat wing samples to measure the amount of inflammatory markers in that tissue and compare it to how fast the colonies those bats are from are growing. The wing is a great place to look at when thinking about white nose syndrome because the fungus that causes this deadly disease grows on skin without fur, making the wing a huge target. I have found that the amount of inflammatory markers in the little brown bat's wings can predict how sick an individual bat is, if it's fully diseased, in a healing stage, or completely healed. I've also found that those inflammatory markers in the wing can begin to tell us how fast the colony that bat is from is growing. However, it's not nearly as reliable as telling us that disease stage. I'm also working on another technique that looks at these same exact inflammatory markers, but in bat poop or guano, which can be collected from colonies without handling a single bat. It's really important to develop these non-invasive techniques when looking at diseased populations because handling the animals can cause a lot of unnecessary stress. Inflammatory markers are not the only tool we have to predict colony outcomes, and my collaborators are also looking at things like stress levels and viral load. There is hope
for all of our little brown bats. And the more we know about colonies that are recovering from white nose syndrome, the better we can help those newly exposed colonies in the West. Thank you.
I'm going to give our judges a minute to score, but I want to thank you all so much for joining us for our preliminary round. Thank you to the Graduate College team who made the 3MT event possible. Now just stay tuned. We'll announce the winners live in just a few minutes. Judges, please be sure to press submit at the bottom of your scoring rubric form. Okay, thank you all so much for your patience. While only the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt. You can get yours during the Rebel Grad Slam Finals reception. For the preliminary rounds, the first place winner receives $300, the second place winner receives $200, and the third place winner receives $100. Are you ready? Here are the winners of this preliminary round. I have them right here. First place goes to Belle Gerber. Second place, Meghna Gogi. Third place, Susan Gleed. Thank you again for your participation, and please join us for the semifinal rounds on Thursday, November 6th at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1:30 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. And for the finals round, which is this Friday, November 7th at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. Lastly, we will have your Rebel Grad Slam t-shirts available at the finals reception in the Greenspun lobby. We welcome you to RSVP for the finals event with the link that has been put in the chat. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.